on, folks. All right. Welcome, everyone, to Real Talk. Real Talk is hosted by Tri-City Collective and the Woody Guthrie Center. Real Talk, Voicing the Margins, is a series of curated live conversations on issues and topics of critical importance to marginalized communities, including, but not limited to, people of color, to LGBTQAI+, and economically disadvantaged citizens. Providing a voice and a platform for often voiceless people is at the heart of this series. Real Talk, Voicing the Margins is a partnership between Woody Guthrie Center, the Tulsa Artist Fellowship, and Tri-City Collective. Today, you are joining us for Real Talk, Examining Black Excellence. At this time, we would like to share Woody Guthrie's land acknowledgement. The Woody Guthrie Center acknowledges the land on which we gather is the home of the Osage, Cherokee, and Muskogee Creek nations, as well as being the ancestral home of the Caddo and numerous other tribes before the forced removal. Their honor and blood inform our spirit and our work. We also acknowledge the Black Americans who lost life, property, and generational wealth in the 1921 race massacre. Their honor and blood inform our spirit and our work. Also, today, I'd like to share in a moment of silence, as today is the 65th anniversary of the first sit-in led by Clara Luper and the NAACP Youth Council in Oklahoma City, which is known to be the longest nonviolent series of sit-ins in the history of the United States, which led to Black and African American people being able to eat in restaurants in Oklahoma. Today, her family and the Clara Luper Legacy Committee are honoring this memory with the Day of Protest and March in Oklahoma City. Please join us in this moment of silence. Thank you. So now we'd like to get into the show, which is, again, Examining Black Excellence. I am going to introduce our host, and then our host will introduce our guests. Let me get to his bio. His bio was good. Xavier Graves is committed to disrupting the culture of punishment that created the school-to-prison pipeline. Currently, he is the executive director of the Restorative Justice Institute of Oklahoma while working on a Master of Social Work degree at OU. To disrupt the overuse of suspensions, Xavier co-chairs an initiative with Tulsa My Brother's Keeper and is an Albert Schweitzer Fellow at McLean High School, helping students to find their voice and amplify it. He is a husband of 10 plus years, a father of 3 perfect children with complex needs and a couple of pets that he doesn't want to claim. And he practices restorative justice daily at home as well. Thank you, Xavier.
Just for the record, Jazzy put that pet part in there. All right, so I will now introduce our panel, starting with Dashara. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, Dashara. My name is Dashara V. And I'm the wife of an excellent Black man and mother to 3 excellent Black boys. I was raised on the east side of Tulsa by a single mother of 7. Watching the ebb and flow of struggle and joy in my community led me to my work as a community-based doula with the Tulsa Birth Equity Initiative. I also coordinate the program's Queen's Village, a supportive community of powerful Black women who come together to relax, repower, and take care of themselves and each other. Amen. Beautiful. Mike, or Michael?
Mike is good.
Mike is good. Coach Mike?
Yes,
right.
sir.
Coach Mike has a deep passion for helping youth to reach their fullest potential, academically, emotionally, physically, and socially. He serves the KIPP Tulsa and Central Middle School youth through after-school sports activities. Currently, he's a program manager at...
He is now the director of programs.
Ooh. I appreciate that.
Yes. Currently, he is the director of programs at Leadership Tulsa, where he is excited to work and learn from a diverse group of individuals to help make a positive impact for a better Tulsa. Give it up for Coach Mike. All right. And lastly, Desiree has spent the last decade helping startup founders succeed. An entrepreneur herself, she works at a variety of nonprofits before launching programming at Blackstone Launchpad at NYU, leading operations and programming for New York Designs as the assistant director and now as the director of programs at Build in Tulsa. She is passionate about empowering Black and brown entrepreneurs to build legacies of success and generational wealth. Yes. So let's give it up for our panel one last time as we get in. And as this discussion is about examining Black excellence, I just want to start with a little blurb about Black excellence. So Black excellence is a term birthed into the 1970s to acknowledge achievement or high demonstration of skill in the Black community. Skill in the Black community has grown through the years largely due to hashtags and social media. In its rise, many have begun to question the use of this term of endearment. Who defines Black excellence? Is it something that we use to cheer each other on, or is it another ring we're trying to grasp? Is Black excellence an attainable community standard or impossible goal imposed by those around us? Black excellence may inspire or ignite depending on the intent and context. So as we get into this discussion, I would love for y'all to introduce to the audience and people watching online something that's not in your bio that you would love for them to know about you, as well as what is your story of realizing what Blackness means to you, or how you realize what Blackness means in America as well. So what is in your bio that you would love for people to know, and what is your story of learning what Blackness means in America?
What's not in your bio?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure if this is too surface level, but I love volleyball. I played for 7 years, and whenever I see people playing, I kind of just want to insert myself. So I guess that's like a toxic trait of mine. Yes. When did I realize what being Black in America meant to me?
Yeah.
This is really sad to say. I would say in my big age, I realized, I feel like I could pinpoint a moment in middle school maybe that I realized that I was Black and how different that was and what that meant. I can pinpoint maybe a moment in high school. My freshman year, there was actually a race riot at our school. Both of those were negative experiences, but it wasn't until I got to college that I was like, this is a vibe. Blackness is like a thing, you know? And now being an adult and being married to a Black man and seeing what it's like to be him in America, having 3 Black boys that I'm raising, I don't know, it's just different for me now. So,
can you tell us one of those stories from middle school?
Oh,
Tell us one of those moments.
Geography, you know.
Yeah.
This boy was sitting next to me. He had his book open, and the country Niger in Africa, he says, "Psst, Deshara." I look over. This is what you are. And I was like, oh. I, didn't have wasn't who I am now, because I would have addressed that. But yeah, I didn't know how to feel about that just yet. Didn't know how to address that at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of when I realized, like, I'm not the only one that knows that I'm a Black girl everyone else knows too, and how different that is. When we go swim, I have to take a little extra time to comb my hair. I'm not gonna get ready in 5 minutes. It's just not gonna happen. Excuse me. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
It definitely does.
Okay.
And I would love for you to share a moment from college when you realized it was a vibe.
Ooh, so it wasn't until my sophomore year. I played 1 year of volleyball in college and ended up transferring to the University of Central Oklahoma, which you guys know is a PWI. And they had, I didn't know anybody the first semester, and so I was kind of isolated, couldn't really find my people. But I ran into some beautiful Black people, probably in their junior and senior year, but they were part of the Black Student Association, encouraged me to join, and that's kind of how I got involved in the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, and just really was able to find my people, and working together and encouraging each other at a PWI, you know, we just kind of had our own little community, and I'm like, this is lit. Yeah.
And for people who don't know what PWI is, a predominantly white institution.
Yes.
Yeah, just want to make sure.
Yes.
All right, Coach Mike.
In my bio, well, probably need to change it now because I didn't add that I'm married to a Black woman too, and I have 2 kids. I have my son and my daughter.
Yeah.
So, I would say for me, at a young age, I had my father was always my mother and my father was married, so I had my father there, showed me what a strong Black male looked like. I had my uncle, who was my mother's brother. I had cousins and other uncles. So growing up through life, I always saw the examples of now as I see what it would look like to be a Black man and take care of the family, steadfast, be strong, and lead your family, right? So it wasn't until I got to college. So let me start beginning. College, I went to Langston my freshman year out of high school. And I was doing everything but the right things. I was going to football practice and kicking it. And then I had to change courses, came home for a little bit, and then I went to a predominantly white school, Pittsburgh State in Kansas. And if you know anything about Southeast Kansas, it is a complete 180 from what I'm used to. So when I was there, I had a scholarship to be on the football team, and they used to have this thing they used to call Racist Thursdays. And I guess I could say the internally the players would call it playing and stuff, but I wasn't used to that. So they would say little stuff. And one time I was coming on the field, and one of the seniors, he was like, "Oh, they go drive by Mike." And I'm looking, I'm like, bro, what you talking about? I said, you in that gangbanger car, because I had an 86 Colors. And I was like, at the moment, I'm like, bro, like, and everybody was kind of laughing, and but I didn't really know how to sit with it. I was like, that's different. So it wasn't until, to your point, I had a group, my best friend Rashad was down there already playing. So he got me to come down there, and he surrounded me and introduced me to his group of close friends. And my partners, Ike, Moss, and Rashad, man, they just kind of took me under their wing and showed me what it looked like to be in that space, how to work in the space, how to use it and leverage it to be, saying the good for myself. So, man, that's a relationship that I formed that's still life-standing. They were all in my wedding. But I say that to say, like, going from where I was at, coming from Tulsa, going to Langston, then being in there, if I wouldn't have had them, I would have been lost in the sauce or went to jail because I'd have went off on somebody.
Yeah.
So
Right.
for me, showing me what that looked like, I just appreciate them for having another set. I've been blessed to have sets of strong Black men throughout my life.
Yeah.
And in college, when I think I have it all together, you can't tell me nothing. I'm from Tulsa. Y'all with this. They set me down like, bro, no, that ain't how we moving around here.
Right.
If you want to learn how to, I'm going to show you what this is going to look like. And I did nothing but take off from there. So, man, I hope that answered the question.
Oh,
But
yeah,
just being
definitely.
able to be surrounded with strong Black men and then having them in my life, and then still when I needed it the most, I had another group that was there to kind of show me the way. So,
Excellent.
Yeah.
Desiree?
That's a great question, and thank you both for going first because it really helped to set the stage for me too. But that's not one thing that's not in my bio is that I'm a writer. I guess I'm just trying to embrace that term a little bit more.
Want to say it again?
Yes, I'm a writer. And I am I've been releasing some work over the summer for the first time in a really long time. So, and we'll have been releasing work and we'll continue to release some work every month over the next 6 months and then hopefully package it all next year. And so from the Black excellence side of things. So I'm from Queens, New York. I was born and raised in Queens. So though I grew up in a middle income neighborhood with other Black families, like we had, I knew that I was very rare. I was out of my friend group. I was the one who grew up in a house. I grew up, we had 6 air conditioners in our home. You know, we had, everyone in the house had a car in New York City, you know. We had a front lawn or back lawn, and we had a really beautiful house. And so I grew up in a really beautiful neighborhood with other Black families. However, I spent a lot of my time, even from a child to now, for the most part, in a lot of white spaces. And so I never really identified as a Black woman, honestly, until I was 22 years old. And that's when I started to really embrace my skin color, because I got bullied a lot in middle school and especially in high school for being dark skinned. And so I tended to not be around a lot of Black kids a lot, because I just didn't feel the love coming from my own community as a kid. And so when I went to college, of course, you know, I went to another predominantly white institution as well. My high school was pretty much white, my middle school, my elementary school. I went to, even though coming from Southeast Jamaica, Queens, I went to school in Bayside, Queens, which is like Northeast Queens, and next to Long Island, it's a predominantly white neighborhood. And so I spent most of my schooling in white neighborhoods, and then college, and then coming into the corporate world was all white spaces as well. And so, but it wasn't until I was 22 years old and I joined the National Coalition of 100 Black Women that I understood my Blackness. But I have to really say that I really identified as a Black woman at Razoo's Bar and Grill in New Orleans.
Okay.
Like I went to Essence Fest this past year, this past June, and it was the first time that I really felt like I belonged to my own community as well.
Yeah.
So I'm 38 years old too, so that's a long time to come.
Yeah, I think it's a journey. I think that's something that we don't really talk about, is the journey of walking into your Blackness. And even though y'all had Black families growing up, it kind of was taking you being kind of submerged in whiteness or around white culture, and then knowing the sting of that you weren't prepared for, and then finding Blackness again for us to really appreciate what that meant. So thank y'all all for sharing those beautiful stories about the struggle and the joy of coming from that. But since those moments of y'all realizing what Blackness is and what being Black in America is, how has your definition of Blackness and Black excellence grown since then? So I'll start with you, Coach Mont.
I would say my definition has grown with, I like seeing us succeed. So when I see the Black excellence, it's like in the intentionality of showcasing who we are, what we're doing, and like the capabilities that we have. And it's almost like a double-edged sword, because I was thinking about it last night. It was like, why should we have to have this much intentionality to show that we are just as good or even better than some other counterparts? But I just appreciate it from the fact that we're like that intentionality to show the world like we're here. We are good enough, and sometimes we are better. But it has grown to where I look at it as, it's not just a pat on, I know you said like a pat on the back, but it's like it showcases it, and I use it as an expression for myself that everything I do, I try to operate in excellence, especially like with work. Because one of my partners, Sergio, that used to work for my brother's keeper, he would tell a story of, like, he would tell our kids, when kids would see, like, you have to take the stairs while other people get to take the elevator. So it's almost like when I use it as like a mental motivation for me, to where I have to do sometimes 2 times double the work. But then that just pushes me to be at my best. That way, when I do show up and I show out, it's not just because he happens to be. No, I'm that good, and this is what that looks like. So it has grown to where from just a showcase to where I want to see everybody shine, and that it gives that opportunity to like showcase you, like, this is where we at, and like this is who we are. So. And
I love that you said that, because I always felt that I always take the elevator. You know, I always make sure I'm positioned to take that elevator, making sure that I'm always positioning myself at the table, making sure I always have a seat at the table. And I've always felt like it was a lot of competition as well, like in the workplace. And for the most part, most of my jobs, except for building Tulsa, but most of my jobs, for the most part, I've been the only Black person on the team. And so I always had to feel like I had to fight to maintain my place at the workplace. And so I was always like, I'm going to have a space in the elevator. Like, I'm not going to take the next one up.
That's real. Yes.
I'm still kind of digesting that question, to be honest. I don't know that I have a comment about how Black excellence to me has evolved, but as far as being Black, I think it's been, growing up, it was kind of a negative thing. You get a lot of flack, and what is those microaggressions? People assume certain things about you, and so you don't really have the space to just be. As far as how I view it now, I'm just gonna show up exactly who and how I am in every single space, and I don't need permission anymore. I think also, speaking to what you said, Desiree, about how you felt you weren't accepted by your own community at times, that was kind of my experience. You know, I grew up in and around the hood, if you will. But I was always too black for the white kids, too white for the black kids. And depending on where I was, because I told y'all I love volleyball. So volleyball season was in the fall, right? Only black girl on the team. And so in that space, I had to diminish my blackness to fit in. And then I ran track in the spring. And so then I could just be rah, rah, rah. And I remember coming back the next fall, and one of my volleyball teammates said, why are you acting so black? Right.
Yeah.
But no, so remembering how I reacted in those spaces at that time, I'm nowhere near that. I'm just gonna be exactly who I am. I know who I am, you know, and I'll show up that way wherever I go.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah.
Can I piggyback on
Yeah,
that?
Yeah, please.
So, and this may sound bad, but like I've just feel like I've gotten comfortable in the past 2 years of like authentically showing up as me. Because when
Same.
so going back to college when I had a graduate assistant position in the student diversity office, and I was talking to some people around the campus, and I kind of got in my head, it was like, well, if I'm going to be in meetings with like the president of the school and stuff like that, I had to cut my beard down. So like the first week before I started in the office, I went to my barber, who was my partner on the football team, and he's like, Big Mike, what we doing? And I was like, man, cut my beard off. And he's like, what you doing? I'm like, nah, bro. Like if I'm being in these meetings, I gotta look professional. I have to look the part. I don't want to come off as the big intimidating black guy. So let's cut my beard off and do whatever. And I had my waves or whatever. But I did that, then had a meeting where I saw the meeting, was talking to the president. He's like, Big Mike, what's going on, man, with the beard? What's going on? I said, man, I thought if I was going to be in places with you and stuff, like I had to cut it off. He was like, don't ever let nobody tell you how or you should show up. And that was coming from a white man, right? So, and then now to the point where I'm growing my hair, this is the first time I really grown my hair out. I've always had waves. But when the pandemic happened, that was crazy. That went out the window. So I tried it, didn't like it because I still wasn't comfortable, cut it off. And then like my sister and my partner Saoirse again, like he's in these spaces, professional spaces with his hair, and he was like, bro,
With the
you can rock
do-rag on
that.
too.
You know what
Saoirse will be in meetings.
You know what I'm
with the
saying?
do-rag on.
And he be pushing me. He was like, nah, bro, like if that's you, bro, show up like that. And I was like, dang. So I'm just now getting comfortable to where like I'm showing up as me, like good, bad, and different. You like it, cool. If you don't, it is what it is. I'm gonna be me. So I just wanted to piggyback off it. I just getting to the point where like this is what it is. So.
Yeah. This is
Imperfect
so
at all.
beautiful.
So, that's
Yeah,
real.
I want to piggyback off that too, because it wasn't until I'm moving to Tulsa that I felt my most authentic black self. Even coming from New York, you know, I couldn't be my most authentic black self in New York. And so this is the last 1.5 years, the first time that I wore my own hair to work. Like, you know, like I would always wear like wigs or like weaves or professional braids. My grandmother had to give the okay for what braids looked acceptable for the workplace, you know. But I also had bosses who told me that braids weren't acceptable for the workplace as well. And so coming to Tulsa, you know, it was hard to at first it was hard to find someone who could do my hair. So, you know, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to just cut it off and just go to work like that. And so this was the first time that I ever actually felt comfortable doing that. So
And you're working it too.
Yeah.
A man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One thing that I'm kind of hearing all the themes about, you know, being into our blackness is there's still high risk, right? Whether it's, I'm gonna take the stairs, then it's like I'm wondering like when does the mental fatigue come in where you always have to be so intentional, or just like if you are gonna be authentic, are you gonna have people it's like, why are you acting so black? Are you gonna get those seats at the table? So how do y'all kind of know when to take the risk or when to try to play it smart, or y'all just like it's gonna be a risk no matter what? So kind of talk about the risk when it comes to being your authentic black selves? I told you I was gonna be some off the cuff questions. So
Yeah.
Ooh. I don't think y'all want to hear my answer.
Oh, I do.
Go ahead.
I'm all in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care. There's not very much. No, let me say this. There's very little that I care about, and I will not betray myself and my values to make someone else feel comfortable. I don't believe that's how we get there, right? There is a such thing as excuse me, having allies. So I don't necessarily need the seat. You know what I mean? Just like that was a white man that told you, don't you ever compromise yourself. You don't need that seat. He right there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I feel like everything or every space we go into, it's a matter of the heart, you know? Maybe that sounds naive, but I don't personally need that seat. So I'm just not, I don't care about the risk.
Yeah.
It's just what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I challenge you though? I think you
Please.
do care,
Please.
right? I just think you care about your values more
Yeah, yeah.
than what people have
Right,
told you you
right,
should
right.
care about.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I love that.
Maybe that's a better way to put it. I realize now, let me say this to add to that. I realize now me compromising myself is not the only way to get things done.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a
Yeah.
better explanation.
Awesome.
Shaboing boing.
Yeah, I guess I can talk about going back to hair. So there was just a point in time. So I had just moved to Tulsa. I was about 8 months in, but there were, some challenges at the workplace, and it just made me just reconsider real quick if I should leave and then to move. And so just by chance, my old boss happened to recommend me for a job. And the people already knew me. Like I used to, from when I was working at NYU. And so he put my name in the hat, and literally the next day they called me, and we spoke for a whole month, and it seemed like I just had the job. It seemed like everything was going fine. I mean, they see me on Zoom. We had phone calls. We were talking about bonus packages. We were talking about a lot of things, but then I had one interview with one person, and then she was like, you can't run around the workplace with pink hair. And I had like these I had actually like, my hair was like 3 different colors. I had like pink braids, silver braids, red braids all at once and at the time. And the executive director, and it's also another multi-billion-dollar corporation, didn't care, what I looked like. But it was just one person who happened to work for her, and she said that, and so I put her in her place, basically. And her weave looked busted, too, by the way. And so I had to say something. Like, it was, like, all dry, and I'm just like, how you gonna say something about my hair, and your hair look jacked up?
Right.
But whatever. But I put her in her place. And then the next day, they said, we'll get back to you, and never called me again.
And the person who checked you, that you had to check, was another black person.
It was another black woman, yeah. Yeah, with the jacked up weave,
Compromising.
yeah.
Compromising. And on the weave, too.
Yeah. Compromise on
And speaking of that, I don't want to go on a tangent, but I was thinking about this too. It hurt me personally when I've been in spaces in different jobs, and there's been a black man that has reached a level of what I'm trying to, what I would get to. So when I think of that black excellence, like, bro, like you're it, you're there, you're at the table. But then they don't have, I don't want to say necessarily have my back, but it's like you then turn. I'm trying to figure out a good way to say this. So my one of my partners would say all skin folk ain't kin folk, if that makes sense.
Facts.
So it was like, bro, it's like you. Almost like that Uncle Tom, bro. I'm like, bro, like you weak, bro. Like you was who I thought you was, and then how you supposed to be supporting us, trying to come up like you're not it. So then that would hurt me. Like, bro, you supposed to be. It's almost like automatic. Like whether you want to or not, you supposed to be carrying us with you. Not saying you responsible for my rise, but like you intentionally would do stuff to knock us down and keep like that pecking order of I'm up here and make sure y'all down here. And I'm like, bro, that is so trash.
Yeah.
And so that's why I feel like hurt. And that's why I go so hard with like our youth and stuff, bro. And I'm like, bro, I'm gonna bring you with me.
Yeah.
Like, and if you surpass me, then we straight. But it's like some people when they in them space, they don't. I want you to do good, just not as good as me. And that stuff, I'd be like, bro, that's trash.
Yeah. And do y'all think that, this desire, need, the term black excellence, I don't hear about white excellence, explicitly, or Latin excellence or any of these other excellence. Why do we need black excellence? Like, why is it even a term? Why is it even something we need to be discussing?
I think it's representation, honestly. I think that in order for you to, you see yourself, you see your dreams, you have your goals, and sometimes we don't think that we can achieve them because we don't see us in positions or making certain money, or the owners of one of these multi-billion-dollar companies or whatever. So sometimes we see others getting what we feel like we should have a part of as well, but we're not on the scene as much as they are. And so sometimes if you don't see us, you don't think you can become it either.
Yeah.
I think representation definitely matters. Yeah.
It does.
And I would say too, going back to what I say, the intentionality piece, and like say all like white folks stuff are not against us, right? So people that may support you and stuff, when they see that back us or something that's going on, then they can also piggyback and like, I didn't know that was going on. So with through Black Excellence creating that path to be seen, someone that's in support of it can then come in, and that could be another pathway to get connected with people that may not originally have been able to get to you.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, making paths for others. Yeah.
So I think that I have lots of feelings about the term Black excellence. I think it can be a currency, if you will. In situations like that, it becomes useless, right? Like with the gentleman that's kind of like a Uncle Tom, because you can't really do anything with that. Some other thoughts I have about it are just the term excellence means to excel, right? Excel means to go above and beyond a standard, right? What is the standard? Who created it? And so I don't think that Black excellence only means what I'm about to say now, but for the sake of the argument, it's almost as if Western culture or our white counterparts have defined the term excellence, right? And once you become a participant of that game or that system and you have a Black face, you are now Black excellence. Because now you can get others to participate in the standard that we're setting, right? Yeah. So it can be useful, in my opinion, right? When used properly, like what Mike is doing and Desiree, the spaces that you guys operate. But I do also want to kind of challenge us today and on what we deem as Black excellence, right? And how we present ourselves in those spaces. Yes.
Yeah. Do you think Black excellence can also be used to dehumanize us?
Absolutely.
Right? That we always have to be on stage all the time.
You become the
always being
spokesperson.
Successful. If you make one mistake, then you've got your
Absolutely.
Black excellence card taken away from
Yeah.
you. So, like, what do we do with the term then? Is it like how should we approach it if it's kind of like a double-edged sword?
That's a great question.
But I mean, just speaking for me, it's just in how I want to use it.
Yeah.
Like I can't control how everybody else is looking at it, but for me, and to your point, the circles I run in, like it could almost be like an internal like standard. Whatever your best is, and you pushing forward, and you achievement, we putting you on the pedestal, and that's being attached to it. Cool, but just the fact that you're excelling and can get that and get that exposure, I mean, that's a win for me. So
Can you define that?
Define.
What are wins in your circle?
Well, different levels. So for me, I would just say, so like for my middle school kids, if I had a kid that was, so when I was in the building at KIPP at the high school, if I had a kid that wasn't coming to school, X, Y, and Z is going on at the house, getting in trouble in the classroom, X, Y, and Z, but we can get that down to where you missing 3 or 4 days of school, to you missing 1 or 2 a week, and you in class, you turning in homework, got that grade from an F to a D and D. Like for me, that's a win. We celebrate them. To me, we celebrate them small wins, right? So I think it's depending on what level, whatever you're at. But for me, with my kids, bro, I'm like, any degree for me, better is better. But then when you when you put that berm tag Black excellence on it, it's like, am I then doing enough? But I don't put that on my kids to be like, well, you got to get here for me to be able to celebrate you.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
I can definitely understand what you say about definitely within your own circle and your internal standards. And I'm looking at the audience and I see Darian Watson, who's a founder who just raised money for his startup squad trip and moved here to Tulsa. a few months ago with his fiancee, Nicole, and really took a leap of faith doing that. But raising money for the Black and Brown community in venture capital as tech entrepreneurs is really hard, and it's almost impossible. And so when you do find Black founders like Darian and some of the ones that we celebrate here in Tulsa, I feel like, we have a whole bunch of diamonds just sitting right here in Tulsa that are Black excellence in terms of fundraising. But when it comes to our white counterparts and our Black counterparts raising money, like you think about the fall of WeWork, Adam Newman, walked away with over billions of dollars from WeWork after he basically tanked the company. And it was like chaotic and basically a shit show, but yet was able to raise again with another company at over $300 million, like 2-3 years later. And so, you don't see that many Black faces who have raised a lot of money out there or who are still running successful tech ventures. But yet, our white counterparts can fail over and over and over and over again, very publicly, and still get funded each and every time.
Yeah.
But we have to work harder, and if we fail, then that's it for us. There is no more funding potentially.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how do we create a standard for ourselves, making sure that we can control our own capital, our own resources, our own assets, so that way that we are shopping Black, buying Black, investing in Black, to make sure that we don't have to go through those same challenges and barriers, but we got to get that money first. We have to get our capital and resource assets up. Yeah. So it's like that, to me, that's like defining a standard of excellence, is when we can control our own capital and resources.
Yeah, beautiful.
I like what Mike said. He said it's just, as far as the term goes, it's how he uses it. I do think the meaning can be subjective, depending on the conversation you're having or whatever space you're in. But I don't know. I don't know that I'm fond of using the overuse of it. I feel like we do need to be more intentional about when and how we use the term, because if we're not careful, we affirm the idea that our white counterparts have a monopoly on excellence, or they get to define what that looks like, and we praise, those people that live up to that idea, and just celebrating those small wins, it means a lot. To other people, it's not that big of a deal, but I think that's key in defining it for yourself. Like the fact that, you said earlier, you said, I'm a Black man married to a Black woman. I was like, yes, that's excellence to me. The fact that you had different sets of men to show you what it looked like to move and to be a Black man who's responsible for himself and a family. That's excellence to me. That's Black excellence to me. And I don't even know if I want to put Black excellence or Black on that, but hopefully I'm making sense. Yeah. I just think we need to be more intentional about how and when we use it.
Yeah. I'm curious, Desiree, you were talking about pretty much building our own table, right? At what point are we building our own tables? And I think it even goes to, Mike, your example of in the education system. At what point are we building our own tables but still perpetuating capitalism that is in turn hurting Black communities every single day? Or education systems where, we were asking kids to excel in an education system that was not designed for them. At what point can we start using Black excellence in a way of not just how we play the game, but to get rid of this game and make new games? In what ways do y'all see us being able to do that? Even those systems ain't going away anytime soon.
Basically creating a new playbook. How are we creating a new playbook for ourselves that doesn't necessarily align with the ways that we used to do things in the past?
Yeah.
Which sometimes, perpetuate a lot of white culture and stuff like that. I think that's just a great question. I think one of it really is about putting trust in ourselves. And so we talk a lot about trust and fear in our community. And so sometimes it's easier to align with others because we've seen them that goes back into success. We've seen what they have, we've seen what they can do, how they've gotten something, how they played the playbook, and so we want to use that playbook, but we have too many examples to know that doesn't always work for us. But how do you put trust in ourselves and our own communities that we can achieve the same thing if we work together collaboratively? So one thing that Tulsa does really well is collaboration. We know how to collaborate, right? And so within our own communities, can we do that same thing? And so we collaborate, we use our own skill sets, our knowledge, our educational backgrounds, our families, our just everything that we can, every arsenal that we have in our toolbox. What can we create if we just really trusted each other?
Yeah. Anybody else want to add to that?
I love that. Yeah. That was beautifully put. I feel like I was going to say identity, I feel like we're missing a lot of identity, and not just in our Blackness, just the person that we are on the inside. I'm not saying everybody has to do this, but my children are homeschooled, right? And the differences that I've seen in them is they are like unapologetically joyful Black boys. They don't shy away from any challenges. They just the joy that they have. They learn differently, so I don't think they have to sit down in a seat for 8 hours and just memorize whatever is on a board. If you're interested in this, then we'll learn about that. We delve deeper into the questions that they have. And again, I'm not saying that everyone has to do that, but that's like a microscopic peek into what it looks like when we do trust ourselves. Trust ourselves to educate our children, teaching our children what it looks like to trust yourselves, modeling what trust looks like between mom and dad, and how we show up in the world. Trusting ourselves enough to know that what we do does matter. What we do does have an effect on what we see in our lives. And when we start that within ourselves, I feel like we can move on to trusting each other enough to collaborate and to build that table. Hopefully that answers the question.
You trust yourself that it did. Right now, you're really speaking to me. Like that trusting yourself is hard to do, especially when I'm doing this like energy hygiene boot camp, trying to reprogram my thoughts, and I realized I was having a hard time really telling people how I'm doing, especially when things are going well, and I'm like, I'm great, right? Because I know there's always some people have it worse. And my coach was telling me, it's like, I can't protect the other people from those feelings. Like they're gonna feel a certain way by what I say and what I don't say, and I can't always be thinking about how is this other person gonna take that. And then I realized, why am I so stuck on trying to make sure everyone else is good but me? And it's because, been on this earth for 30 plus years, been identified as a Black male this whole time, and I've always been told I'm dangerous. But I need to trust myself if I expect anyone else to be able to trust me too. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so true.
Anything you want to add on to that, Vic?
No, sir.
Let's ask a fun question. What was y'all's favorite part of the Alabama? No.
Please no. Thank you, no.
All right. Can you share a time where Black excellence, either the concept, your definition of Black excellence, actually helped you? Like, hey, I remember I was thinking Black excellence helped me to get to this next point, or harmed you as realized, man, I was putting too much into it, and now I'm suffering because of this term.
Harmed in my formative years. You go through a lot as a youth. There's a lot of struggling to find yourself, find your voice. So I think a lot of that is normal. But I also bended quite a bit in way too many spaces, and I just want to go back and hug that girl and tell her, listen, we gonna fix this. So that's probably the place that it may have harmed me. Some ways that it may have benefited, I guess, is when you have those people that have reached the pinnacle, or they're in a space that you aspire to be, a lot of the times when it's actual Black excellence as currency, they'll recognize that, and they show you, okay, so this is what you need to be working on. This is how you need to improve. You actually get that collaborative aspect with elders and, I guess almost like the cheat code, if you will, on how to navigate life in Black skin. Mm-hmm.
I would say in the definition of how I define it, I would say similar to how I see my partners constantly leveling up from college to where we are now. For me, it's like just seeing them. Like I had partners that started out as just D-line coaches, and now they're head coaches of football teams at major colleges, taking care of their families, loving up, buying houses, fixing their credit. Like to me, that's because I know where we started from, and so when I see it's almost like this internal joke we have each other, like we don't want to be the one that's left behind, right? So it's like when you level up, it's okay, bro, I got to step it up another notch, but not on a harming way, but it's like we got to keep this going. Anyway, we keep pushing one another. So in how I define Black excellence, it has helped me to where like we always pushing each other, pushing to do better. When someone does something, oh bro, we celebrating that, we having a good time. Okay, what's the next one coming on? What's the next person doing? So it's just good for me to see those to be able to have it in that type of way, to where we always constantly pushing each other to be better.
Yeah. I would love for you to also touch on, because this is going to be a guess, but what about when one of your partners is struggling?
Oh man,
what do y'all do? Because I have a feeling it's...
Man, we rally. So in college, I'm gonna do college and then now. In college, we used to have this thing called round tables. So if it was an issue with a partner within our group or our circle, you get in the text room like, bro, I need to have a round table. We would either come to my house, or me and my partner Wiley, where we stayed at, or somebody's house, and we would hash it out right there. And like, what's the issue? Like how did it affect us? And then now that I go back and think, like we was actually like working through having them conversations. But now sometimes we got a little ignorant, but it was at the end of the day, it was good. But we just had a round table. Like, bro, I need to have a round table. Like when you did X, Y, and Z, or you moved a certain type of way, or when you did this, that wasn't, and we would just call each other to the carpet and we would hash it out. I'm not saying we always left in that moment with kumbayas, but it came back around to where we know we had that appreciation to know, like, bro, like you tripping. And I'm gonna call you to the carpet for it. Now, how we do it now, man, I would say it's happened to me where I wasn't in my best place about 3 or so years ago, and my partner was telling me, like, bro, if you don't get to take care of yourself, bro, you're going to put yourself in the early grave with all the stress and stuff you're doing. And so it's usually, I started going to therapy and started back working out because I slumped off of that with having kids and wife and using that as an excuse. But he's like, nah, bro, I'm not taking that. Get your butt in the gym. So he's like, you need to get your butt in therapy, whatever that look like for you. So just those challenges, just those constant pushes. And now we in a situation where one of my partners is going through some stuff. And yesterday, I was on the phone with him and I was like, bro, I'm not accepting that. Like, bro, I hear what you're saying, but no, we not doing it. This is how, you know what I'm saying? This is how you can move, or how you consider this, or tell me some other options that may be on the table. And then he texted me early this morning, was like, bro, I appreciate that. Because I was like, bro, I'm done. And it's like, I'm not saying I solved the problem for him, but it's just that constant push to be like, bro, when we good, we good. And when we not, we going to help you get back to where you was. So I just appreciate that.
Yeah, I can't imagine the healthy of competition, everyone leveling it up without that also. Those safety nets of being there for each other. So I knew you was gonna have an answer for that.
No, that's it. And then the crazy thing, like when we try to duck and hide each other, like we've had to pull up. Like I pulled up to people's houses. Like, bro, you ain't been answering the phone. Where you at, bro? Like, what we doing? So like we just got that love for one another, because we got to see each other succeed, man. We put too much into it not to get there.
Right.
I got used to that here in Tulsa. People just pulling up to the house.
Nobody
ever pulled up to my apartment in New York. Ever. But in Tulsa, that definitely happens.
Most definitely.
And I would definitely piggyback just off of that a little bit, because in my family, my grandparents really pushed me to be my best self. And my grandparents had 4 kids, and then some of their kids went their ways. And my mom had me and my sister, and my sister and my mom went their ways. But my grandparent was like, you gonna do well. We're gonna push you. And so my grandparents really pushed me to be the person that I am today. They made sure that I was taking the right classes. Like, when it came to woodworking in middle school, my grandfather was like, no, it's not because I was a girl. He was like, technology is the future, so you need to learn computers. You need to really get into computers and into technology. And then so he was right, because that's the world today, And then I wasn't trying to go to college, and my grandmother like really whooped me really good, and applying for college. And who would have known? Many years later, I'm an adjunct, at a college now in New York City. Because I really didn't want to go to school, but I had a great support system. My grandparents and my mom and my sister really have always encouraged me to be my best self, but I've always kind of been the one in the family who's always kind of had like the money, always the one who was supporting everyone in the family, and so many of our Black brothers and sisters always do that. Sometimes they can't build their own wealth because they're, stuck taking care of everybody else. And so honestly, I took a page from Kobe Bryant's book after he died, and I was reading something that he said, and when he first started making money, he was the one kind of like taking care of the family, but then he realized, how about I help you learn how to, attract wealth, how to create wealth, instead of me giving it to you. And so so now for the last few years, I don't really give my family anything, and I always try to work with them, like, how else can you solve this problem without someone just giving you a handout? Like, how can you make sure that you have stability, that you have money in your savings account, God forbid something happens. Like, my car broke down this summer, but there's no one in my family I can go to, but I went to myself because I'm financial literacy, making sure that I'm doing the things that I have to do to make sure that I have what I need. But when it came down to my family, they weren't doing that before. But now that we've been in this kind of like phase the last few years, they've been doing really, really well with making sure that they are supporting themselves. But of course, like when the family needs to gather around everyone and support someone if it's in a dire need, of course we'll do it. But we're trying to make sure that like now, like, you good? You know how to get a job? You know how to, save your money? You know how to make sure that you have enough money to cover your bills? And so it's like even the basic knowledge and the foundation stuff that I find now is like, for my family, that's a form of Black excellence, and that's how Black excellence is helping us, because you should just be able to create for yourself rather than someone giving it to you.
I think also you have to be in a position, I'm thinking about the family members that you're talking about, you have to be in a position to, I don't know if the word is humble yourself, but you have to position yourself to hear what it is you're saying. You have to be able to recognize that obviously you got something right that I'm not getting for myself. And so I should sit here and listen and really learn how to apply. And just kind of echoing what you said earlier about that aspect of trust, like you have to trust yourself, and then I have to trust myself, and I have to trust you in order for us to kind of get anywhere. And almost like the round tables that Mike was talking about, just that collective effort, that collective trust. I think that's beautiful. Instead of giving you the fish, let me teach you how to go and get it.
And those skills that a lot of people learn about of how to build wealth and create these skills and get these careers, we find them in college. And recently, affirmative action has been stripped away from us, right? And people of color. How do y'all feel like that's going to have an impact on Black citizens? Will it or will it not?
If anything, it probably continues the pressurized environment. If anything, that you still have to be your best. You still, you still have to sometimes be the competitor against others. That's what I really see it as. That's what kind of always seen it as still. And and even as I'm on the stage and we're talking about all these things, I still don't know how to exist any other way just yet.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. The only thing I really think is that being a resilient people, we're gonna still find a way. So, and I can just think of professors that have taken me under their wing and been like, bro, even though you're not getting this over here, they will provide something else for me. Or like my partners, I know everybody don't have that, but I think a resilience to either find another way, or then we will find another way as a people to still provide that resource to the students, if that makes sense. Like, you may not get it here, but okay, y'all not gonna give it to us this way. We're gonna find another workaround and still make sure we good.
Yeah, I actually really like that answer, because we wouldn't need affirmative action if all of our primary schools and all of our middle schools, all of our high schools were equitable to the other schools we see on other parts of town. Then the playing field would be square, right? But it's not, and that's why we need affirmative action. So what you're saying is oh, well, we'll just go deeper and really make sure that maybe we're
Right.
homeschooling our kids, maybe we are showing up at the schools, making sure that our next generation have the skills what they need, that they don't need a affirmative action law. People already know based upon their merits and their competition enough.
Yeah. And that's the power of the collective thinking, is that if we all can think like this, go deeper, educate our children, create our own resources, manage our own capital, that, all the other ills of the world are still going to exist, but we
Yeah.
can still progress regardless of, of what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier about building our own table. Like, we don't have to play that game, I get how it was beneficial in the past. I'm not saying that it should be done away with, but we gonna make a way. And there's no point in sitting around twiddling our thumbs waiting for somebody to make it happen for us.
Yeah.
Excuse me, we gonna make some shake.
Yeah.
Yeah, we gonna make
Yeah.
some shake.
Yeah. Elon Musk is not waiting around for people.
Right.
Jeff Bezos wasn't waiting around. We don't have that many black names to say, though, right?
Right.
Who wasn't waiting around. So, but we don't have to. We can just keep going.
Yeah, we've always been a people that's made a way out of no way, and it's time to continue to do so. And so as we are talking about these other different ways of our support being stripped from us and us not really relying on those superficial supports, what are the ways you wish us as a community would support us from the bottom up as well? Like, what are other ways you want to see us kind of come together to build those resources, to build a table?
I think showing up, like everyone here did today. I think like showing up, being present, being in the moment, being in community, showing up to places to learn, to volunteer, to get educated. I think about what Tyrone Billingsley just did with taking the delegation of 70 Black and brown and actually allies to Las Vegas for the DEF CON Hackers Conference. And we were testing AI language models, and just to see 70 of us in that room, especially for those who don't travel that much or ever been to a conference like that, I think that that's a part of creating that table, is being able to get out of your environment to go experience something else greater than yourself, or just greater than what you ever thought you could be, and being exposed to the education, the knowledge, and so that way you're speaking the same language. And so I think that just showing up, being part of community, knowing people so you can get part of trips like that or delegations like that. And so really it's just coming about being able to show up.
I think also whenever you have made it, so to speak, you have a responsibility to give back, right? You have a responsibility to share the knowledge that you have. And I think a lot of us that make it are afraid that that's going to be taken, and so we hoard that knowledge, we gatekeep, So I think it's important on that front. Also, in my bio, you guys heard I serve as a community-based doula, so I'm literally in the communities that I came from. I had a client's mother I met at her birth, and she was looking at me talking, and she just said, you know what, you can just tell that you've been so many different places, you've seen so many different things. I was just like, no, ma'am. I said, no, I come from exactly where my client is, and I think that taking that responsibility to go into those communities and to have those real conversations, because not everybody is going to be on a beautiful event. Very glad we're having this conversation, but not everybody is going to be on social media. Not everybody is going to take the time out of their Saturday wrangling kids and while they're struggling to pay this, that, or the other, to come and have a talk about Black excellence. So bringing that conversation to them, holding them to a higher standard, even though they've been told constantly, this is going to be hard, you got too many kids, not enough money, so on and so forth. But I'm not accepting that. Let's figure out how we get to the next level, how we make small wins. So yeah, I feel like it works on both. It has to level up on both ends of the spectrum. If you've made it, you got to give it back. You have to. And if you're there, you need to figure out how do I get in this, get a stake in this, and not in their game, but in my community. Yeah.
Got anything you want to add to that?
I was just similar to what they said. I say just bring the resources to the people. Like meet people where they at. To where like you can't, like you say, you can't plan something and expect, okay, you need to come get it from me because I have it.
Right.
Like to your point, everybody's dealing with something. So if you have the opportunity to take it to someone, so for example, when we doing stuff at with our football kids, like when we do our rank 1 stuff, if there's something that we know is going on where parents may be struggling, or students struggling with tutoring, whatever, so we may gonna bring the tutors to the school instead of saying, well, y'all need to go out here and go get it. No, we're gonna bring it to them. Same thing with physicals. Like I remember Nate when they was having trouble trying to folks. Well, I can't get a ride to go get my physical by this time. He went and called Dr. Pennell. Dr. Pennell pulled up to the school and did the physicals there for them. So bringing the resources to them so they can still access it and get what they need.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Tashari, you said something about the responsibility to give back. It reminds me of Maya Angelou quote. I've learned that you shouldn't go through life with a catcher's mitt on both hands. You need to be able to throw something back. And you mentioned Kobe. You know, I was love like who do y'all learn from when it comes to Black excellence? Whether it's art, sport, athletes, you know, books. Who do y'all learn from when it comes to your definition of Black excellence?
Well, my grandparents, even though they're long departed, their lessons never leave. And so definitely, my grandparents, they're from South Carolina. They moved to New York City in the 1950s. They were superintendents of a building in the Bronx, and then they were able to buy a house in the 1970s, and it became a family house. And they literally had nothing. And I make a lot more money than my grandparents ever did, and they seem to manage their money better. Really, seriously, they were working with very little, and so. But I always think about just my grandparents when I think about Black excellence and just the lessons that they taught, and they come true in so many different ways, even to today.
That's real.
I feel like I learned a lot from my mom and dad on what not to do. No shade at all, but I can also attribute, I guess, having a relationship with the Most High, I feel like is a very big thing because that's how I found out who I was. And now, I work for the Tulsa Birth Equity Initiative, and y'all, I didn't know Black women like this existed. Yes. It's every crevice and corner you look at, it's like they doing it, and I've learned so much from them. I'm just like, all right, so what I do wrong? What I need to do better, and just gleaning because I'm like, wow, I didn't know that this was possible. And then even with Queen's Village, another network of Black women, powerful Black women. That wasn't a mistype. Powerful Black women that don't shrink, that are educated but don't betray themselves or compromise who they are. I feel like people that I brush shoulders with, I learned from. Not to say that there aren't maybe celebrities or people that have good things to say, but a lot of those kinds of people are accessible right next to us, so.
I would say the same, similar, but I would say the one person I can think of is my day one is my mama. She's, man, you want to talk about a rock. I know everybody has something, but that woman, man, the stuff that she's gone through, been through, that she's done for our family, continue to do, it's like, to your point, I don't have an excuse. She is a rock. So, and my wife will get on me sometimes, she's like, why you talking to your mom all the time? I was like, yeah, you just don't understand. But just learning how she moves, and I seen how she handled taking care of the family. Dealing with cancer when we was losing my father and still showing up and making sure that the family was taken care of and she was hurting, but you never heard her complain. And it was just, man, I have so much admiration for that woman. It's just I have no excuse in the world, no matter on my worst day, of why I can't be my best self because I've seen what she's done and what she's been through. So my mama's my number one, but then to your point, it's just my partners, the people that I'm brushing shoulders with, I'm learning, I'm looking, I'm seeing how people moving. So like I'll sit back and be quiet and may act crazy for a little bit, but I'm looking like I'm seeing how you move, and then I double back and be like, bro, I seen you did X, Y, and Z because I love to touch base with you on how this happened. So just trying to learn from folks.
I love that no one really named a celebrity or, a historical figure. Jazzy started off with talking about, this is the 65th year of Clara Looper, and she had her teaching methodologies of every student is a diamond, right? And there's ways to learn and glean from the people right next to us, the people that don't have much, the people that, are powerful in their own ways. I think, but also we talked about how that's difficult for us growing up with black skin to realize that within us. So I would love for y'all just to share, a message to any black person with black skin who don't feel like they're a diamond. What do you want to tell them?
So a man thinketh, so he is. Yeah, I feel like everything that you see out here starts right here.
Yeah.
It starts right here. And whatever you don't gatekeep right here, take root right here. And I think it's so important to grasp that concept. You can literally do anything. Like when you sit with that, I don't care how many times you got to say it. I don't care how you got to say it. When you get that aha moment, like, yo, I can do anything. No limits exist. And hopefully this doesn't get taken the wrong way, but what even is affirmative action? I can literally do anything. Why do I can create anything. Where I'm sitting right now, I literally spoke into existence 3 years ago. Kid you not. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's why it goes back to identity earlier, because when you realize that, you see the world differently. You just see things differently, you move differently, you don't hinge what you can do based off of what somebody said you should do. I feel like a lot of us, I'll speak for myself, have grown up and have been told this is the playbook, this is the rules you got to play by, and you just fill in the blanks. And so you create this life almost where you're like, okay, let me put this here, put that there, and now I got to do this and do that, and none of this has anything to do with who you are, right? And so knowing who you are, knowing your purpose, knowing what's in here, and keeping track of what comes in here, I feel like has a big part to play in what we see around us. So safeguard your mind, safeguard your heart, watch your words, watch what you're looking at, watch what you're hearing, everything is of the heart,
At the Restorative Justice Institute, we have a saying that liberation begins in the mind. Like for us to be truly free, it starts up here, so I love that.
Facts.
That's real.
Coach Mike, what you want to say?
Man, that was beautiful. I appreciate that. For me, that's just, man, I was like, you're enough.
Yeah.
Like, you're worthy, you can, and you will, and then for, like, you must. And it's just, because even sometimes I was still sitting down. I'm like, well, dang, can I do this? What can I do this? And it's like, once again, people in my corner, it's just like, bro, like, yes, why not? Because I spoke at Job Corps' graduation yesterday, and I told them, like, trust the process even when we don't understand the plan. Like, just take a step. Then you take another step.
Yeah.
And then you take another step.
Yeah.
And if you happen to stumble, collect yourself for a minute, get your bearings together, and then you keep on stepping. And like, whatever you can, you will. And just that you are enough, just make it happen. If you don't know what that looks like yet, just live life. Enjoy your moments. We reach out to those trusted individuals. Like, what do you see in me? Because we're our harshest critic.
Yeah.
And when because there was an exercise that was leading to a speaker that I was listening to, and they was like, I want you to leave from this space and go talk to 5 people and ask, like, what do you see in me? Like, what qualities do I have? And you'd be surprised at things that they start rattling off, because he asked us to do it, and it took us like 10 minutes to start writing stuff down. But when you start talking to people, they just rattling stuff off. Bro, you do this, you do that, you do this. Well, I wish I could do this. And I'm like, dang, I never considered that. So just seek out that information. Ask people that you trust, what do you see in me? And then just enjoy the moments, enjoy life, and go through it, and things will start happening. Get intentional with your conversations and what you're saying. Like, show me this. This is what I want to be. Show me what I'm destined to be. You're destined for greatness.
Right.
You wasn't created to be average. So just go out there and make it happen and enjoy the process.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would just say, well, diamonds do really well under pressure. That's why they're so beautiful. So they're these pressurized jewels. And so I just think that sometimes pressure is a polysemic word. Like people think of the negative connotation of pressure, but you can use pressure for greatness, also in a relaxed way too at the same time. But I just think that it's just, I agreed, the mindset, just continuing to see yourself. And you were talking about working on some energy before. And so I've been on a fast I'm on a 75-day fast, no food. I'm on like day 46. And so also just like challenging yourself, just really like just doing new things. That's what I journaled about last night. Yeah. And journaling is great. And I think I wish more people would journal and just really write out their thoughts because it does make a difference. But I was just journaling and just like, wow, just challenge yourself more. Like it's okay to have like challenges because a challenge within a challenge will just teach you how to think differently, how to problem solve differently as well. So I just think that like pressure can be used for good as well. So.
Also, I want you to kind of speak to the same people who they take your advice, they start to live into their Black excellence. But we know in this country we have a history of whenever Black excellence shows, there's always pushback. When that pushback comes, when people are checking people on their hair and saying, you have Uncle Tom's not letting you be great. What is your advice for when they're dealing with the struggle as well?
See yourself. I think that people definitely know that when they are tearing somebody down, because I've been there before too. I've done it before in my life as well. I'm not perfect. But I've been able to see myself in those ways. And when I saw myself in those ways, I didn't want to become that. And so I just think that it's just like, just see yourself in your greatness, see yourself in your potential. Yeah.
Not everything is personal. Don't take everything personally. You said earlier about some of the things you were working on, like not being responsible for how you make someone feel, or not how you make, how what you say or do makes someone else feel. We're truly not, like knowing that each person is an individual with their own array of experiences. And so, excuse me, how they treat you or how they react, respond, talk isn't indicative of who you are. And adjust your expectations. Don't go in expecting that, because I've done X, Y, and Z and I got this track record, I'm going to be treated as such. Not going to happen. And that's okay. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to take anything personally. If you want to take the time and energy out of your day to tear me down, you just wasted however much time that took, and it didn't have any effect on me because I'm not going to take it personally. Again, it goes back to knowing who you are.
Yep.
Yeah. Trust yourself.
That's right.
And standing in that, being okay with those boundaries and allowing people to be who they are, even if it is jacked up and they weave busted and you want to come for the colors in my hair,
Yeah.
So, yeah. Oh, sorry.
So that's what I was just going to hit on the same thing about it, adjusting your expectations and defining like what does success look like for me? What are you willing to tolerate? What are you not? And then realizing, is this something where I'm being accepted or just being tolerated? And then knowing like, is it time for me to move? Because I've been told like, bro, you're loyal to a fault. And it's like, and when I go back and look, there's places I've stayed too long just because I just wanted it to say, for them to, when they say my name, like, he's loyal, he's going to do this. But it's like, nah, bro, you should have been gone.
Right.
Yeah.
But everything happens for a reason in its due season. But I would just say, just recognize where you at, what adjustments can you make, and if the adjustment says it's time for you to make moves and move around and get out of that situation and make that happen.
Can I add something?
Of course.
Strategically build your circle. My husband is 10 years older than me, and we have like this ongoing joke. He'd be like, I'm almost 40. I'm like, I'm almost 30. And so we can have like this ebb and flow of like, he'll be like telling me like, nah, Deshara, you need to step it up and, make sure you living out your purpose and so on and so forth. And when we first got married, I'm like, he always talking about, what he know and what I don't. And, but getting to where we are now, I've recognized that he's like a key person in my circle. You know what I'm saying? Like he got my back. You know, I have two friends that I feel comfortable calling friend, and those are some dynamic women. Like they are the same way. I'll tell them, I'm like, okay, sis, you just need to let me know. Am I tripping? You know, and they'll call me out. They'll pull me up. Yeah, I feel like strategically building your circle is key. One of the keys.
I'm a big Brene Brown fan. I know it's talking about Black excellence, but Brene can come to any barbecue, I hope. But she was talking about getting a 1x1 inch piece of paper and just writing down as many names on that. And like whenever you come to a big decision, if the people on here says it's a yes, then it's a yes. If people on here says a no, don't worry about anyone else. Like you have your little list, and that's the people you ride with. So I love that advice. So as we kind of just end, I would love for us, as we've had this conversation, and there's so much nuance about Black excellence, and we've yet to really define it. But I really want to take this last question for us to redefine Black excellence based upon y'all's story, who y'all are, how y'all are using it. What is your definition for Black excellence?
I would say my definition is being able to show up as your most authentic self, and just being able to not sacrifice who you are to meet your goals, and making sure that you are spreading how it worked for you to others in your community and in your circle, to make sure that they can achieve the same level of progress.
I don't really know that there's anything that needs to be added.
I was
to
about to think the
that
same
was beautiful. Yeah, maybe Black excellence is cyclical. When I think of, okay, so just side note, my grandmother just sent me one of our family trees that goes all the way back to the 1600s. And so I'm looking at these names and I'm actualizing in my brain like these were actual lives. And that's just so fascinating to me. And I'm curious, what did they pass down to their daughters, their sons, and what lived on all the way up to me? And so I feel like it's everything you just said, and then just almost like that circle of life. I was looking at some sunflowers, and then I'll stop. I was looking at some sunflowers the other day, wild ones, and there's a big bush of live, thriving ones, and then there was one that had kind of shriveled up and died, so to speak. But I was like, these are gonna regrow next year. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it never ends. And I feel like when we achieve that, like, that's ding.
Yeah. That's the sauce. You have anything?
I was just going back into my youth, just something like, just show up and show out as you. Give your best effort, whatever that looks like. Just give your best effort and know that you didn't cheat the grind. You gave it your best shot, and then we build on that.
Right.
Yeah.
To me, that's being excellent.
Yeah, authenticity is my biggest value, and I love that you added that to your definition. It reminded me of this poem from Nikki Giovanni. I'm gonna share this is that cool? All right, sweet. And I just think about like how many times Blackness is seen as radical, right? But it's really our natural selves that we can be that is radical, right? And she says, I used to dream militant dreams of taking over America to show these white folks how it should be done. I used to dream radical dreams of blowing everyone away with my perspective powers of correct analysts. I even used to think that I'd be the one to stop the riot and negotiate the peace. Of course. Then I awoke and dug that if I dreamed a natural dream of being a natural woman doing what a woman does when she's natural, I will have a revolution. By Nikki Giovanni. And that is our show.
That's beautiful.
All right, well, thank you to all of our panelists. Deshara. Coach Mike, Desiree, and our amazing host, Xavier. Thank you so much for joining us today. This very important conversation, it just made my heart like soar over here. And thank you so much for all the people that make Real Talk possible. That's Tri-City Collective, Tulsa Artist Fellowships, and of course our big host, the Woody Guthrie Center. Please stay tuned on our social media. It is at Tri-City Collective for our next Real Talk session, and I believe it is October. All right. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Oh no, wait. Hold on. Don't come on. Thank you. My apologies. Upcoming events of the Woody Guthrie Center. People's Poetry Night, and that will feature Nuova Wright, Audrey Kallenberger, Cassidy McCants. That'll be on the first Friday, September 1st at 6 p.m. Then we also have Disco Freak Fashion Show with the Oklahoma Fashion Alliance, and that's Sunday, September 3rd, also at 6 p.m. And then finally, on September 10th, we will have Ballad Monger, a peek inside the Oscar brand archives, and that's September 10th at 2 p.m. Now officially, thank you.
Thank you.